Welcome back to Following Noadon, a Stormlight podcast. This week is episode 92, and we are diverting ourselves from Stormlight. And this week, class, we will be reading excerpts from Arcanum Unbounded, and thank you for all attending Cosmere 101. If you are watching this on YouTube, we have a custom... Yes, Paul?
Can I go to the bathroom?
No. You should have gone before class. We are doing Cosmere 101 today. If this is not the class you signed up for, please exit now. Except for you, Paul, you're stuck here.
What?
All right, but in all good fun, we will be learning some more about the Cosmere. I am able to answer several questions now that we can understand a little bit more of the wider Cosmere. But last night's reading, I know this is the first day of class, but we had reading apparently from the previous night. We had the title pages. Well, let me back up. Elliot, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to just learn and ask some questions and figure this out. Apparently the Cosmere is a lot bigger than I thought it was. So yeah, this will be fun.
And Paul?
I'm excited to ace this class because I will know everything by the end of it.
Sounds good. Let me preface this episode with, this is by far the episode that I prepared for the most, because there is plenty of Cosmere knowledge in my head. However, I have no idea how it got there and in what context I've gained it from, like some live stream or some Q&A that I watched or attended or whatever. And so there's some things that I'm allowed to tell you at this point. There's some things I'm deliberately not. So I had to sort through all of that of how I know what I know, and if you're allowed to know it at this point. So some questions I'm wearing my Rafo shirt deliberately for today because there may be some Rafo questions that you guys will be asking. But without further ado, we will be going through the title pages for each system in Arcanum Unbounded, and then we will be talking about White Sand, Chapter 1. It is a graphic novel, but there is a kind of a teaser for White Sand in Arcanum Unbounded, which we have read. What were you guys' quick thoughts on White Sand before we really get started?
It felt like Elliot actually put this in our outline, but it felt like I was reading or watching Dune. To some extent, the sandy area, and then things like feel the vibrations of the sand and like pop out and stuff. So I had a lot of that energy.
I thought it was a fun little mini exploration of a new magic system. It was kind of cool you could almost see like Brandon Sanderson fitting all the pieces together and kind of explaining by showing you kind of how the different elements worked. I thought it was fun.
Cool.
So, Trevor, I actually want to interrupt right quick because this isn't not our average podcast episode, but I do have a mug this week.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, who's on our mug?
Yes, this week, we have a longtime supporter of our channel, actually, and recent surgeon, and that is Jancy, however we're going to say it. And you are on a cup which actually our beloved host Trevor gave to me as a gift, which reads, "Why limit happy to an hour?" Which is a great question. So thank you so much, Janzy, for your support of our channel. You've been someone that's I always enjoy seeing all your comments on our videos and involvement, and we're happy to have you as a supporter. And I hope you are happy for much more than just an hour.
Thank you for supporting us, Jancy.
Thank you.
You were one of our very first viewers. I remember you commenting on some of our first episodes way back in the day. Can I continue with class?
Yes. Sorry, teacher.
Raise your hand next time. We have a spell check. When's the last time we had a spell check? We have a spell check for this
Oh no.
episode.
I forgot to study.
We start with Eliot on these. Eliot, who is the author of the in-world excerpts that you learned from the preface? Brandon Sanderson is speaking directly to the reader, and he explains some of the rules of Arcanum Unbounded. We learned who the author is, the in-world author. Who is that?
You always scare me when you pick ones that I think should be easy. This seems like one I might have a massive advantage over Paul here, but Paul, you always surprise me with your skill on these. So I'll say that this person's name is clearly Chris.
Yes, her name is Chris. This one is for Paul, because Paul might not get this. Go ahead,
Okay.
Paul.
I won't lie. I took a slightly different approach. I prepared ahead of time, and I wrote down 2 options. And I'm gonna be completely transparent with you and with our audience. And I was going to pick one based off of how Elliot pronounced it. I'm being transparent,
Okay.
but
That's
you
fair.
can't fault me for my preparedness, because I was like, it just says Chris, so like that's kind of basic. But I went with a different, like, sort of a. I went with Kris. Very simple, very short. Chris.
You're just missing 2 letters. It is KHRISS.
Okay. I never
Just
would have guessed the
because.
second S. Yeah, I never would have gotten the second S. So, okay.
You got the K, though.
All right.
Yeah, there we go.
And for our second spell check, this is 2 of 2. Elliot, you had this written in the outline, and I censored it for Paul. And Chris has an offhand mention during our Cellish System excerpt of, oh, maybe the blank, no more. How would you pronounce that word?
Another one that I'm scared of overthinking. I'm assuming that Chris is talking about the ire. The ire?
Paul, is he correct?
He's not exactly correct. No, the way they say it is eerie.
They say Irie.
Sorry, yes.
The
Irie.
The Irie.
Irie.
Okay.
And how would you like to spell this with that context, Paul? I'll allow it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go with a simplistic spelling of the Irie. Right? Am I saying it right? I
Yes.
actually second guess myself a lot on this one.
The Irie.
Irie. And I'm going to go with IRE. Just simple, short.
You are correct. And
Okay.
Spot
nice.
on.
Elliot is not to be faulted that everyone would assume that would be pronounced ire. But no,
Yeah.
it's I re, like two syllables.
Incredible. I will say on that one, I had to stop myself from overthinking it a lot because I kept wanting to use a Y actually as the first letter. I don't know. I was just going really crazy with that, but Irie.
All right. Now that that's out of the way, I'm going to go into my lesson plan outline that you guys don't have access to. And anything that you have gained, any info that you've gained from these titles, like these title pages is what I'll call them, the system excerpts, anything that you can connect with as I'm talking, please feel free to interrupt because I don't want to just be talking for 20 minutes. So if you remember something that I'm talking about and that gives me more context for what you've already read, please say so. Adonalsium. We'll start here. This is back towards the Dawn chant interpretation of the humans coming to Roshar and bringing odium with them, okay? Adonalsium is killed and splits into 16 equal shards. 16 equal shards. And it specifically says equal. The way you are receiving this information is via vague answers to Q&As from Brandon Sanderson. That is, and without you having to scroll the internet for them, because now more than before, spoilers are mixed in with everything. So I have extracted what you are allowed to know. 16 shards of Adonalsium were split during the shattering. I will let you know of 8. Okay? We have odium, cultivation, honor. Endowment is present on Nalthis, which is where Warbreaker takes place. Which is conspicuously missing from this book, by the way. Nalthis is not here. We have autonomy, which we have gained knowledge very recently of. Autonomy is on Taldane, which I'll come back to here in a second. Ambition, which we have gained knowledge of, is on Threnodite, or was on Threnodite. And we have devotion and dominion. Okay? Devotion and dominion were present on Cell, the Cellish system. They have since been destroyed. And that is where Elantris happens, which we will read further down the line. Any questions?
So I read all of these like previews, or briefly read the previews, and it says that so there's the destruction of, excuse me, what was it, Dominion and the 2D ones?
Dominion and Devotion.
Yes, Dominion and Devotion, they're destroyed, but do we know how?
Yes, I will get to it later.
Okay. And we read what happened to
Ambition.
There's one of them there. Yes, Ambition. Similar to Honor, right? Okay.
Yes, Elliot.
So I was a little bit confused when I read the summary of the Cellish system.
Yep.
Chris is the author, right?
Yes.
So Chris says that Cell has multiple shards, but that this is rare.
Yes.
I came back to that because I was confused, because she says that Cell is rare and that it has more than one shard. But we already know that Roshar has 3 shards, and she mentions another system in here that also has 2 shards. 2, 4, 3, we're what, at 7? You just said there's 16. That's almost half the shards already?
Yes.
Okay.
Where's
so
the
it's not
question?
as rare as I... The question is, that doesn't seem like rare in my book if we've already come across 3 planets that have multiple shards. But I guess I'll redefine my definition of rare and be good to go.
Sure. The reason why she says that is during the shattering, the shards, which I'll talk about here more in a second, the shards all agree we need to stay away from each other. We're too powerful. We are going to go to our separate ways, take our shards of Adonalsium and live over here. You're going to live over there. You're going to live over there. That is very quickly deconstructed. Very quickly.
Got it.
Yes?
I actually have one other quick question. Do we get to know how Adonalsium died or was blasted to smithereens?
The only, and this is the whatever we know from anybody in the fandom knows, Hoyd was there, and Hoyd initiated it, and he did it on purpose. That is what we know.
What?
Come again?
We know that.
We know that.
Why?
Whoa.
I regret asking. I really regret asking.
Okay. That one might take a little processing time.
Okay.
You didn't lead with that?
No, I avoid
Oh my
way down the
gosh.
list here. I was going to get there,
Oh
but
my gosh.
I'm glad you're asking.
Okay.
All right. Now, we have shards. And I want to distinguish the difference between a vessel and a shard. Okay? This is what, Elliot, you were referring to in the Scadrian system. There were a couple vessels that were being referenced, and I want to just distinguish the difference between a vessel and a shard. A vessel is any being, like any person, any creature that is like sentient, can claim, anybody who was there can claim a shard. Okay?
Is this like an embodiment? That vessel becomes the embodiment of that shard?
Yes, they abandon their physical body and take the shard and live on the cognitive and spiritual realm from that point on. They've left their physical body and they have taken the shard and then live on the spiritual realm.
So the shard is living in their body instead of them?
Sure. No. No. The other way around. They are living in the shard. Their body is dead.
Oh. Okay.
Okay?
What?
Do we
So-
know a real world example of this, or can we get a real world example of this? Is this like the
So let me interrupt here because this is
Mhm.
gonna tie in. I have a question.
Yes.
So in this Scadrian system overview here, the phrase is the vessels for these shards were human before their ascensions. Some alarm bells went off when I read that because we did not talk about this, and it probably should have been on my list of questions. We've seen that term ascension before at the end of Oathbringer in relation to Dalinar
Okay.
in the Odium Taravangian scene. Odium says to Taravangian, Dalinar was not supposed to ascend. Capital A.
Yes.
Ascend. Are we I got about 16 questions right here.
Uh-huh.
Are we talking about the same thing? What the heck does it mean for Dalinar to ascend? Is Dalinar now a vessel for a shard? Is Dalinar no longer Dalinar? Is Honor back? Like, the questions are unending.
Okay. I will answer a few and hopefully that helps you and you can ask more after that. The original vessel for Honor, about to name drop for you, his name was Tanavast.
Oh,
Okay. Do you remember that name?
Yes, it's one of our little questions that Elliot
Yes.
listed, right?
The original vessel for Honor was named Tanavast. Odium comes to the system, kills Tanavast, and shatters the shard of Honor. Does not take Honor for himself. He shatters Honor's shard. Now,
okay.
if... Do you remember when Odium was saying, we killed you, this can't happen, we killed you?
Yeah.
Dalinar is more, this is up for interpretation, but Dalinar, capital A, ascending to Honor's shard. It doesn't exist anymore, though. Okay? So he's ascending to the shard, the splinter of Honor that the Stormfather has. Okay? So he has, 2% of it.
But
Comprendo?
it's not the full process that you just described where he leaves his body dead and he goes and lives elsewhere.
Correct. Because the entire shard does not exist anymore.
Okay.
So had Honor still existed as a full shard, yes, Dalinar could have died right then and taken on and been the god
And
Honor.
become the vessel of Honor. Interesting.
Okay. Odium, the vessel holder for Odium, his name is Rays.
What? What? Hold on. We know that name.
Yes. Where do you know that name from?
Rays usually comes up in context with Hoid as almost like a like an anti-Hoid is kind of my thought. It's like he's a counterpart to Hoid. There's Hoid on one side and there's Rays on the other. And that's just from references in like some letters that Hoid was sending to someone.
Yes, and I'm going to read them.
So does this mean that Hoid is the host or whatever for Adonalsium? There we go.
Oh, okay, maybe. I'm not
You're
going to answer
welcome.
that one.
All right. Go
Okay.
read your little things.
Vessel, shard, relationship. Understand?
Got it.
Okay. Cultivation. The vessel for cultivation, her name is Coravellium Avast. You've not heard this name before. Okay. Coravellium Avast was a dragon before she was cultivation. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yes, Paul?
It's not that important of a question. I was just wondering, where the heck did we get a dragon from? When did
Great
is it like a
question.
Larkin? Like, could this be connected to a Larkin? Maybe, but it's the only dragon type thing I can think of.
I mean, it's got to be a crab dragon, right?
No.
Yeah,
No.
just a dragon.
She's not from Rosharan.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So she's from Dragonland.
So people have asked Brandon Sanderson multiple times, when are we going to see dragons in the Cosmere? Come on. We everybody loves dragons. When are we going to see dragons? And his answer was always, you already have. And in Brandon Sanderson's canon, dragons are all shapeshifters. So dragons can take the form of whatever they would like. Okay. There are 2 known dragons in the Cosmere. Coravellium Avast, or she used to be a dragon. She's no longer. She gave up her dragonness and became cultivation. And Frost. And I'll talk about Frost. You have not heard that name before. I'll talk about Frost here in a little bit. Any questions?
Sleepless? Question mark?
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yeah, continue.
Great question. Okay. You mentioned letters. Allow me to read you a couple. Now, these come from the epigraphs in The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, and Oathbringer. You get like maybe 2 sentences here, 2 sentences here, 2 sentences here. I'm going to read them. The first letter. The first letter, this is straight from the Wikipedia. You guys are finally getting info. The first letter, written by Hoid to Frost, argues the danger presented by Rays, the vessel of Odium, hoping to draw Frost out of his oath of non-intervention. Okay. Old friend, I hope this missive finds you well. Though, as you are now essentially immortal, I would guess that wellness on your part is something of a given. I realize that you are probably still angry. That is pleasant to know. Much of your perpetual health, I have come to rely upon your dissatisfaction with me. It is one of the Cosmere's great constants, I should think. Let me first assure you that the element is quite safe. I have found a good home for it. I protect its safety like I protect my own skin, you might say. You do not agree with my quest, I understand that. So much as it is possible to understand someone with whom I disagree so completely. Might I be quite frank? Before you asked why I was so concerned, it is for the following reason. AT was once a kind and generous man, and you saw what became of him. Rays, on the other hand, was among the most loathsome, crafty, and dangerous individuals I have ever met. He holds the most frightening and terrible of the shards. Ponder on that for a time, you old reptile, and tell me if your insistence on non-intervention holds firm. Because I assure you, Rays will not be similarly inhibited. One need only look at the aftermath of his brief visit to Cell to see proof of what I say. In case you have turned a blind eye to that disaster, know that Aeona and Sky are both dead, and that which they held has been splintered, presumably to prevent anyone from rising up to challenge Rays. There's a little bit more, but it's not relevant. Actually, I'll keep reading, but go ahead.
You said the word safety. I wanted to ask if that was capitalized.
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
Good question.
He says like I protected the safety or whatever. Okay.
Elliot, you had an aha moment.
So there were two names in there that were on my list of who the heck are these people?
Yes.
Aeona and Sky. But I think you just answered that the context there seems to imply that those might be the vessels of the two shards that were on Cell.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Aeona
Yes?
and
Okay.
Sky are the vessels of devotion and dominion. Paul, you asked earlier what happened to them. Hoyd said Odium killed them.
Okay.
So you guys came into this class thinking Odium's killed ambition. Sorry.
Yeah.
On
ambition and honor.
On Threnody, he's actually killed 3 already. He's killed devotion and dominion and ambition.
And honor, right?
And honor.
Okay, 4. Nice.
4.
Let's go.
Okay.
Wow.
A quarter of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have accused me of arrogance in my quest. You have accused me of perpetuating my grudge against Rays and Bavadin. Both accusations are true. Neither point makes the things I have written to you untrue. I am being chased. Your friends of the 17th Shard, I suspect. I believe they're still lost, following a false trail I left for them. They'll be happier that way. I doubt they will have any inkling what to do with me should they actually catch me. If anything I have said makes a glimmer of sense to you, I trust that you'll call them off. Or maybe you could astound me and ask them to do something productive for once. For I have never been dedicated to a more important purpose, and the very pillars of the sky will shake with the results of our war here. I ask again, support me. Do not stand aside and let this disaster consume more lives. I've never begged you for something before, old friend. I do so now. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm having kind of a big revelation. My mind is definitely running. Okay.
Uh-huh.
It's running really fast, and it doesn't run fast often. So I understand that with these books, they're excellent stories. The Stormlight Archive we've seen. I'm 2 books into the first era of Mistborn and Fred Warbreaker, all these other things, and they're great stories on their own. And from what I understand, they connect. Maybe not in a way that I'm sort of learning. We'll see. But are we seeing where, like, with everything going on, that the real story is kind of Hoyd jumping around and doing this thing kind of on like a grander, multi-level pyramid scheme, multi-dimensional cosmic journey that we're kind of seeing, and he's like the hero or villain or whatever, catalyst.
It depends on what your definition of real story is, right?
Okay.
I mean, we just learned from the context, now that we have the full context of that letter, that Hoyd is on Roshar to stop Odium. This is the 4th shard he's killed, Honor, and he is saying, he's writing other people saying he's not going to stop. Rays is one of the worst people I've ever met. We need to stop him. Stop with your pact of not getting involved, basically. Okay.
Okay.
So, sorry to interrupt, Paul. Did you have any more questions there before I go on to something else? So I'm fairly competent at math, but you said something that didn't quite add up there. You told us there are 16 shards,
Yes.
but then Horde makes a reference to the
The
17th
17th
shard.
shard. Great question.
What is that?
Okay. So the 17th shard is an organization. Think of them like the Ghost Bloods. Okay? They are an inter-Cosmere organization. It's not a shard. They just call themselves the 17th shard as if they're, moving behind the scenes trying to alter the course of the universe. They, and from our context, Frost seems fairly involved with the 17th shard. The members of the 17th shard have a city in the cognitive realm. Okay, which I'll get to the explanation of the cognitive realm here in a second, called Silverlight. Okay, it is a full-fledged city of humans and other sentient beings that physically live on the cognitive realm. And the 17th shard has a pact, an unofficial pact of we are going to observe and study and not interfere. Okay?
Okay.
So this is Hoyd writing Frost and saying, please come help. We need to stop Odium.
Got it.
Okay, I will come back to Frost's reply, which is in Words of Radiance. And I want to talk about Chris and Silverlight in the cognitive realm real quick and expand upon that real quick.
Okay. Just to restate so I understand, are you saying that Hoyd and Frost and these people are from Silverlight or are Silverlight? They're from that place? Okay. That's fine.
If this helps you at all as well, Frost was also present at the Shattering.
Okay. I think I don't fully understand the Silverlight.
Okay, we're getting there.
Cool.
Chris, our author of Arcanum Unbounded. She is a scholar that lives in Silverlight. She is from Taldane, and once she understands the gravity of everything that's happening in the Cosmere, she moves to Silverlight and helps found a bunch of universities, science, history, whatever. She's kind of our scholar to walk us through this.
Is she part of the 17th shard?
Rafael. I don't think we know that.
Okay.
Silverlight is a full-fledged city in the cognitive realm. And I want to talk about travel in the cognitive realm real quick. Okay? So you have Roshar, you've got all these solar systems all around, okay? You've got Taldane over here, you've got Roshar, blah, blah, blah. There's, however many light years between them, 10, 14, 100, whatever. So the cognitive realm exists 1-for-1 copy on Roshar because everybody thinks about the geography of Roshar. Okay? Okay?
Sure.
Understood.
The distance between Roshar on the cognitive realm and Taldane on the cognitive realm is practically nothing compared to the physical realm because nobody thinks about the distance, the space between them in the physical realm. Nobody thinks about the miles and has a personal connection with the miles in space. Okay? So you can walk in the cognitive realm from planet to planet. Do you remember her talking about Roshar and saying There's some gas giants in Roshar, but we can't study them because there's no imprint on the cognitive realm. Remember her saying that?
I think so, yeah.
She knows they're there, but nobody sees them. Nobody thinks about them, so they're not in the. She can't get there in the cognitive realm. Are you tracking?
And next, you're going to tell us about perpendicularities.
Yes.
Right?
So the only reliable way to get from cognitive realm to the physical realm is through a perpendicularity of a shard. Okay? Most of them come from shards, which we'll talk about here in a second. There's some perpendicularities that exist and nobody knows. Silverlight, I should say. Silverlight does not know why. But a shard has the power to pull people in and out of the cognitive realm into the physical realm.
Okay.
Okay? Any questions?
I think not. So when it comes to interstellar travel, the cognitive realm is the way you get around, because that space you were telling us about, the physical space doesn't actually exist in the cognitive realm. It's all together. And perpendicularities are the bus stops.
Correct.
How you get from, well, how you swap from realm to realm.
Correct.
Got it.
So my only question is, actually, I think I'm answering it myself, thinking about it. We saw at the end of Oathbringer, we couldn't get through the Oath Gate. Oath Gates are different. Are Oath Gates different from perpendicularities?
Yes.
Okay, maybe never mind. But my thought was they couldn't get through this Oath Gate, the spread of the Oath Gate wouldn't let them through. But that was honor specific, right? They were like, honor said we can't let people through, so we're not going to let you through.
Honor.
Okay.
If you want to think about it this way,
how they get through.
Think of an Oath Gate as a perpendicularity on the physical realm only. And you can go from perpendicularity to perpendicularity on the physical realm. And Honor, before he died, said no cognitive realm transfer. He wanted to keep everybody out of Roshar because Odium was there.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
With that in mind, our second letter. Second letter is reply to the first, written by Frost to Hoyd. It's the letter Frost dismisses Hoyd's concerns, arguing that Reyes has been trapped by Honor in the Rosharan system. I'll address this letter to my old friend, as I have no idea what name you're using currently. Have you given up on the gemstone now that it is dead? And do you no longer hide behind the name of your old master? I am told that in your current incarnation you've taken a name that references what you presume to be one of your virtues. This is, I suspect, a little like a skunk naming itself for its stench. Now, look what you've made me say. You've always been able to bring out the most extreme in me, old friend, and I do still name you a friend, for all that you weary me. Yes, I'm disappointed. Perpetually, as you put it, is not the destruction we have wrought enough? The worlds you now tread bear the touch and design of Adonalsium. Our interference so far has brought nothing but pain. My path has been chosen very deliberately. Yes, I agree with everything you have said about Reyes, including the severe danger he presents. However, it seems to me that all things have been set up for a purpose, and if we, as infants, stumble through the workshop, we risk exacerbating, not preventing, a problem. Reyes is captive. He cannot leave the system he now inhabits. His destructive potential is, therefore, inhibited. Whether that was Tanavast's design or not, millennia have passed without Reyes taking the life of another of the 16. While I mourn for the great suffering Reyes has caused, I do not believe we could hope for a better outcome than this. He bears the weight of God's own divine hatred, separated by the virtues that gave it context. He is what we made him to be, old friend, and that is what he, unfortunately, wished to become. I suspect that he is more a force than an individual now, despite your insistence to the contrary. The force is contained and an equilibrium reached. You, however, have never been a force for equilibrium. You tow chaos behind you like a corpse dragged by one leg through the snow. Please, hearken to my plea. Leave that place and join me in my oath of non-intervention. The Cosmere itself may depend on our restraint.
So the potentially obvious question that lies before us, that I'm trying to rack my brains to come up with a guess on, is who is Race? And have we seen him before? And where on Roshar is he?
Didn't I tell you this? Raises the vessel for odium.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we see odium, are we seeing Race? That it's that
Yes.
simple?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got to get my brain to connect that the two are interchangeable.
More or less. Yes. Within the context
Got
of
it.
Stormlight Archive, yes. Now, what is odium's goal? When he talks to Dalinar, what is he trying to accomplish?
He wants specifically there. Doesn't he say he wants to kill cultivation, or is it just like in general he wants to kill all the shards?
He says regrettably I will have to kill cultivation eventually, probably, but that's not his goal.
Doesn't he say destroy Roshar?
He wants to like remake everything, doesn't he? I could be off.
No.
Okay.
Odium has been trapped by Honor somehow. His goal is to challenge Honor's champion and win and leave Roshar. That is his goal.
The whole release me or you will release me thing.
Do you speak for the world, Dalinar Kholin? That type of thing. Contest of Champions. Win it. You get to leave and go kill all the other shards.
So despite the apparent mobility of Race Odium, he still is then bound by whatever Tanavast was able to like contain him somehow. He's still bound by that, and that's what he's trying to escape from still.
Yes.
Even though Honor's dead.
Yes.
Got it.
Any other questions?
So basically, to think about this, Odium is some sort of crazy destructive force that's been tearing around the universe, wrecking people's lives. He came to Roshar. Tanavast was able to like get the genie inside the lamp, and now the genie's trying to talk his way out of the lamp.
Correct. And Hoyd is saying, hey, we need to help the people of Roshar. And Frost is saying, no, the Roshar is the lamp. Leave him in the lamp. Let him destroy Roshar.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
All right.
It makes a lot more sense.
All right. We're not done. A few more name drops for you.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Roshar has 3 habitable planets. Remember that from reading the Arcanum excerpt?
Yep.
One of them is called Ashen, the Burning Planet. Otherwise known as the Tranquiline Halls.
Oh.
Braze, cold and inhospitable, otherwise known as Damnation.
That name jumped out at me because that one was a name drop at the end of Oathbringer. And it was even dropped in such a way that made me already guess it was going to be a planet. It was like a reference of like, oh yeah, over on Braze. Okay. So that puts a few pieces together.
So it is. So we know damnation is a thing because our heralds have gone there.
Yes.
In my head, Tranquiline Halls could totally have just been what the people of Roshar say with their like religion
Right.
system, right?
That is what it is.
Is-
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't. it's not like you die and you actually go there in this story, or do we know? Or
You
is
do
that...
not. You do
Okay, so
not
it's just
return to the Tranquiline Halls.
okay. It's just some little burning guy out
Uh,
there that doesn't actually have.
However,
Okay.
do you remember the big reveal at the end of Oathbringer of the humans are the Voidbringers? They destroyed their own world. That's what we're talking about here. The burning planet. So somebody accidentally, with surge binding, destroyed the planet, and they evacuated to Roshar.
Got it.
A couple questions.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm gonna try and keep them to the burning planet first. How did they evacuate to Roshar? It's. I guess you could travel from here and there in the spiritual realm. I'm guessing you could
The
get there.
cognitive realm.
Oh, sorry. Yes, to the cognitive realm.
Yes.
That makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. I guess that makes
And
sense.
assuming...
do you also get to damnation then through the cognitive realm?
Yes. Assuming there was a perpendicularity to jump through, yes.
Okay, I see. Do we know how this works with... Something that's been in the back of my head is, how does jumping work with Owl Scholars? Is it just a way to get into Roshar? Or sorry, Shadesmar? Or the cognitive realm?
I will answer that
Um,
shortly.
Because I'm confused, because I was like, could Yasuna make it to these places, or...
Short answer, yes.
Okay.
Interesting. So, but then, so how does the Heralds, the whole death of the Heralds thing work?
Yeah,
then?
that's what I was confused about as well.
So-
like, you die and you travel through the cognitive realm to here?
So now we're about to introduce another term, which is cognitive shadow. Okay? You've heard that a couple times referred to in the Arcanum. A cognitive shadow. And that is when somebody dies, if they have enough investiture, they will... basically their soul will live on with the investiture that they have. The investiture itself will become... will like tie itself to the soul, and you can live in the cognitive realm as a cognitive shadow. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Your mic died, Paul.
Oh, sorry, not
Oh.
as a spren.
No, they are not spread.
Okay. They just kind of hang out there in the cognitive realm. Is that the guy in the lighthouse? That was a spren, wasn't it?
No, it was not a spread. And I'm not going to answer that, sorry.
Okay. He probably had a lot of investiture or whatever. He mentioned it, so...
So our
He would have been
heralds,
alive.
when they die, lose their body and are banished back to Braze as a cognitive shadow.
Why not just to the cognitive realm on Roshar?
They are, but they have to go back to... like, they walk to Braze from the cognitive realm on Roshar.
Why?
Great question. Not going to answer it. Actually, I don't know if we know the answer.
Okay. Because it's
Okay.
like the... I guess that's where the Voidbringers are, right? Because
Yes.
weren't they there with the Voidbringers?
So the fused, the souls that take Parshendi, they are also cognitive shadows who have lived for however long years. They live on Braze. Chris says the only thing that lives on Braze is a bunch of Spren and cognitive shadows. Because it's too inhospitable for people. And yeah.
So would it make sense that our heralds, they died and went to damnation to keep our Voidbringers kind of at bay,
Right.
right?
Defending a perpendicularity there, maybe? Who knows?
Yeah, I was gonna say, are they just keeping them busy so that they can't transferred to the physical realm. That makes sense in my head. They like traveled there intentionally and endured that to keep them. In my head, it
Or
was more
even
of
like
like they're transported there and trapped there, kind of thing. But if that's the case, then it's more like willfully staying there, I guess.
and if the two planets like physically border each other in the cognitive realm, it could just be like defending the border. It's
Right.
like they're at the border of Roshar and Braze, defending the wall.
Okay. Another one. Taln never broke. Okay. The end of 4,500 years, Taln is not the reason why the Oathbringers, the Everstorm came back and the desolation happened again. And that's all we know.
Okay. So when our heralds quote break, they're just coming back to the physical realm, right? They gave
Right.
up. They're leaving Braze and coming back to Roshar.
Yes.
Okay, and so our other heralds have been hanging out here because they gave up.
Yes.
But Tom never gave up, so he was still hanging out for the purposes of our thing. He was defending the oath or the perpendicularity or whatever.
Sure. Some of this is theory, and some at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That doesn't shock me for some reason. I guess I've already got the feeling that something bigger is at work here, and so whatever the actual cause is could also be the cause of Talon returning and Odium's back or whatever. So that one does not actually come as a shock.
I could see this is kind of. I could see our like we don't know that much about Stone Wards, but I could see our like fifth ideal Stone Ward being like never giving up despite
Right.
circumstances, kind of thing. Like that's kind of the arc that from what I understand of Stone Wards they kind of embody. So
We have a couple more things to cover, but I do want to highlight a theory here because it ties into this. There's a big running theory in the fandom that because Talon didn't break, another herald died accidentally on Roshar, was sent, and they broke. Okay. Specifically, Shallan's mother is the theory. So, do you guys remember? Shallan starts surge binding. She gets like pattern, and she has a shard blade, and her mother is trying to kill her. Remember that? And Shallan kind of accidentally kills her mother.
Yeah.
If Shallan, this is specifically Chana Ranach, the red-haired
okay.
herald lady, would be Shallan's mother. Shallan accidentally kills her, well, kind of purposely, self-defense, kills her mother and sends her to Braze, and she breaks. And that's how it starts again. Because that was, 5 years previous of, the flashback, whatever. That's when she was 8 or whatever. That's a big running theory, is that Shallan's mother was a herald, and she's the one that broke when Shallan sent her back.
Is it when one of them breaks is that trigger the beginning of the desolation?
Yes. So
Okay.
traditionally all 10 of them go back, and then as soon as the first one breaks, they all return with the fused, and a desolation starts.
But is it not?
So the whole premise of the prelude is Talon's the only one who has never broken. So we're going to send him back alone because he's never broken, and he's going to do it alone.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, but isn't it like that we have Knight's Radiant powers because of the desolation going on, or maybe that was just like a theory early in the book, or like shown
No, that is a great
from our
question.
current understanding.
What comes first, the surge binding or the desolation, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Because if Shallan was already exhibiting those powers, why would killing her stop it if it had
right.
started? You know.
And if the Herald sees somebody starting to surge bind, then they know, oh, wait, somebody's about to trigger a desolation. I'm going to kill her. So, same reason why Nail might be hunting down surge binders to stop the desolation from happening. But our Heralds are crazy, so keep that in mind.
That's true. Do we? I don't remember how much dialogue or anything. Do we get any like from her mom in
I
War?
don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe
I
you
feel like
do.
that would be pretty evident pretty quick.
Any questions?
It's a lot to process.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
a lot to process. And
I'm thinking, but
yes, all good stuff. So, one of the final notes I will leave you guys with here is when a shard dies and is splintered, they kind of leave their investiture kind of just everywhere. In Honor's case, that's a high storm. And there's Stormlight all over Roshar, and that's like when a shard dies, investiture quickly finds its way into like the common people's hands because it's just everywhere. So on Cell, we had the implication that two of them died even before the humans got there, and so the world itself is kind of just investiture. Like it's just magic, a magic plant. It's the whole world's just a huge magic pile, basically. Yes.
I have a question on this. So does that signify why we see powers from some in people and not powers in other? Like we see Honor. Is that why, whatever? I'm assuming the magic system on Elantris is kind of maybe in part by, the death of Dominion or whatever.
Right.
Um,
When a shard is
is
dead,
that
the investiture is way more evident.
what a way more evident? Maybe I'm missing this a little bit, but I was thinking about Warbreaker because at least from what I know, that shard has not been killed.
Correct. Endowment has not been
But
killed.
it is like breaths are very pretty like everyone has some form of breaths or lack of breaths or whatever.
Right.
Um, so is that different, or is that like maybe it's dead and we didn't know, or like
Honestly, I don't know the answer to your question.
okay,
I don't know
that was
why Warbreaker is the way it is.
okay. That would also in my head that makes sense of like why we don't. I can't point to anyone and really confidently say in our stories we've read that like, oh, that person is embodying cultivation. Cultivation's still kind of ambiguous,
Right.
and also odium as well. We see a lot from odium, but I would believe it if it was like there weren't that many people fully embodying odium, So in my head, that would make sense that we see a lot of honor stuff and not the others. Okay. So Warbreaker is weirder than we thought, ish, maybe. Or maybe I'm just speculating too much.
A couple little ones. Azure is indeed Vivenna.
Nice.
You guys figured that one out. Xyle is indeed what's his face? Vasher.
Yes.
Oh baby.
And
I called that one a long time ago, I want to
Yes.
say.
You did.
I
You
had
called
some
that
inklings,
really early.
like a long time ago.
That's impressive, Elliot. I'm impressed. That was, yeah. You called that like a long time ago. I don't even remember when.
That
Go
honestly,
back and
that
find
all had to do with the way he talked. It was just it felt like the same character. I didn't need any other clues other than just like his style of speaking.
There's another one you need to mention too, right, Trevor?
Shalon is indeed Light Song.
Yes, I
Confirmed.
knew it. Wow, waited
No.
a long time for that confirmation.
That has yet to be confirmed by Brandon Sanderson. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
When you go to a convention, you can ask him that one.
I will, and he'll be like, read and find out. It'll be in Stormlight 5, and I'll be like, okay. Or that or Warbreaker 2, whichever comes
Warbreaker 2.
first, yeah.
Another, actually, maybe my last one that I have to define for you guys is capital F Fortune. Fortune has been referenced a few times, maybe by Odium, maybe by Honor, maybe by Hoyd, and we know very little of it in the fandom. We have just as many questions as you guys do, but what we do know is it's a power tied directly to the spiritual realm. It's kind of separate from investiture. And a lot of people refer to it as luck, but that's not accurate. Hoyd has access to Fortune, and it allows him to know where he needs to be, but not why. And some of the shards have Fortune. And that's pretty much all we know.
You don't know any of the shards that have Fortune? You just know some of the shards have Fortune?
Odium has Fortune.
Okay.
Remember when he's talking to Teravangian and he's like, man, this diagram's super impressive. You did this without Fortune or access to the spiritual realm. This is what I see, presumably, with those two.
Okay.
That's actually not what I was expecting it to be. I thought that was going to be another magic system, another form of investiture,
as
like
well.
some planet where like the magic system somehow has to do with luck or good fortune or something like that, but completely different from investiture. Interesting.
And Fortune is also a byproduct of the Shattering. It didn't exist before the Shattering, but it's not a shard. It's not a, whatever.
Adonalsium dust.
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing I'll tell you about Fortune. Kaladin in the glowy orb thing in Shadesmar, in the cognitive realm, the glowy orb thing is a Fortune light, not a Stormlight. So he receives vision from the future via Fortune.
Does that relate to him being storm blessed?
Ah, great
Seems
question.
like a fortune reference, perhaps.
I know there's plenty of thoughts, but any questions?
On the topic of Odium and Teravangian, actually just on the topic of Teravangian, is there any information we can have about like why he is the way he is, like with his smart days, dull days? Is it just an ambiguous thing? I feel like we have a couple characters that don't fit in our magic systems.
Teravangian is directly tied to the Night Watcher.
Okay.
Teravangian asked for the capacity to save the world. And he received it, but his curse was, you're going to receive the capacity to save the world and the compassion for the world, but never at the same time. So I'm completely throwing your personality.
Wow. Where do we find that out?
You've been told that.
We pieced, I think, some of that together through a combination of interludes and Teravangian discussions. I remember getting dropped that he got that from the Night Watcher. I don't remember exactly where.
Right. I don't remember either.
Okay. At least in my brain that can make sense. So, wow. I didn't think that would work. I literally asked and I received. That's incredible. Never before seen on this podcast.
How does that feel?
Oh man, It only took, 92 weeks? Only took 92 weeks. Less than 100. What a bargain for me.
What a bargain.
I've got another question for you, Trevor.
Yep.
In the system intro for Gadriel, the Scadrian system, there's a reference to connections, and the phrase is specifically false connections that no shard designed or intended. It doesn't really explain more than that, and I can kind of guess at perhaps what that's a reference to, but the context isn't super clear. I think of things like our bonds that our radiants have with their spren, perhaps being like a connection. Am I guessing correctly, or is it something completely different?
It's related, but it's not. It's further detached from Spren than that. It has very little to do with Spren, capital C connection. And I'm not going to explain more of that because we literally get a PowerPoint presentation in writing of that later, of how connection works. So I'll save that for then.
I'm willing to bet that Yasna might be the author of that PowerPoint presentation. Perhaps. Seems
Maybe
like something she
Renarin.
would do. Oh, that's true.
Could be Renarin. I would believe that. I have a random question for you, Trevor.
Yes.
Is our cultivation spren, Wendell, is that in any form or capacity related to cultivation? Like actual cultivation.
Rafo.
Okay.
Hey, you got one.
Got my Rafo card. Let's go.
All right. I'm going to read our letter that we get in Oathbringer, and we can discuss that a little bit. That will be the end of the lesson.
Wow. I just want to say that this has been a treat. I'm very impressed and very excited. Specifically with our dragons and Hoyd, what the heck?
Right?
What the heck? That's so much and it's so dope. Wow.
These epigraphs are from Oathbringer Part 2.
Okay.
3 additional letters were written to Hoyd, 2 using one of the aliases Saphandrius, in response to messages similar to that presented in the first letter. The responses vary, though they are generally dismissive and apathetic toward Hoyd's plea. The first of these letters is written by Endowment, and offers a dismissal much like Frost. It notably expresses a disdain for multiple shards sharing a planet, referring to an oath that they made not to settle near one another. Dearest Saphandrius, I received your communication, of course. I noticed its arrival immediately, just as I noticed your many intrusions into my land. You think yourself so clever, but my eyes are not those of some petty noble, to be clouded by a false nose and some dirt on the cheeks. You mustn't worry yourself about rays. It is a pity about Aona and Sky, but they were foolish, violating our pact from the beginning. Your skills are admirable, but you are merely a man. You had your chance to be more, and refused it. No good can come of 2 shards settling in one location. It was agreed that we would not interfere with one another, and it disappoints me that so few of the shards have kept to this original agreement. As for Uli Da, it was obvious for the outset that she was going to be a problem. Good riddance. Regardless, this is not your concern. You turned your back on divinity. If Rays becomes an issue, he will be dealt with, and so will you.
So were those all our epigraphs from part 2, you said?
That is one of 3 letters in Oathbringer, and I will read the other 2. If you have questions, go ahead.
Hold on. It's just like I am trying to put. My question was going to be, Where are we getting this? Where are we pulling these letters from? But it's from the epigraphs of Oathbringer.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Well done.
Yeah,
Well done,
we
Brandon
read them.
Sanderson.
We just didn't know anything about what they meant.
You've read
very
these.
excellently done. Very hats off.
Yes.
Hats off, Mr. Brando Sando.
To answer a question that neither of you are asking, Ulida was the vessel of ambition.
Okay.
Endowment saying...
Didn't ask.
I know. Endowment saying, yeah, I don't care about Ulida's dying. Good riddance.
Dang.
What was the name of that goddess that Lightsong always talked with? The female one?
Who's
She was
trying to
always like-
sleep with him the whole
Yeah,
book.
taunting
Yeah.
him.
I don't remember.
What is her name?
She dies at the end of the book, doesn't she?
I think she does at some point.
Does she, though?
I don't remember.
Like in front of Lightsong, right? Like that's part of the twist is what's his face captures her and kills her in front of Lightsong in the prison.
I don't remember that being in front of Lightsong. I don't know.
It's when that book goes from like 100 to 0. Or
Yeah.
from 0 to 100, like all of a sudden, kind of, they come out of this passageway in the prison and she's there. She's like, what's happening here? And then they kill her.
Yeah, I think it's starting to ring a bell. I need to go back and read that book now because I was going to make a wild theory, but I think you just dashed it that character was Endowment. But if she's dead.
Are like characters like that, Odium, Endowment, Honor, they're like not people. From what I understand, right? It's like they're not just like a I guess
Well,
Odium kind of is like a
They were people back at the Shattering, or people.
Okay.
They were creatures that had cognitive ability.
And let me rephrase.
And
I think
there's
that
the
was the
Downtrapper.
vessel of Endowment.
Right.
Okay.
And
But-
don't discount cognitive shadows getting shards. Just because somebody's dead on the physical realm, if they have enough investiture, doesn't mean they're gone.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry, tangent. That just popped in my brain.
That's okay. The second letter is written by Podchi, Autonomy, and mentions First of the Sun. As things stand, Autonomy dismisses Hoyd's concern, believing Ray's to be captive, and even offers some admiration for the trapped shard. The author refers to itself in a plural sense and suggests that Hoyd may have found more favor if he had been approached some other spoiler word. The letter is closed with a challenge by which Hoyd may earn the shard's respect. Saphandrius.
Go back and reread. I think you skipped a word.
I
there.
did. I skipped more than a couple words, actually.
It's like Evie's name for Dalinar. Trevor said it, but you and I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny.
Saphandrius, bearer of the first gem. You must know better than to approach us by relying upon presumption of past relationship. You have spoken to one who cannot respond. We instead will take your communication to us, though we know not how you located us upon this world. We are indeed intrigued, for we thought it was well hidden, insignificant among our many realms. As the waves of sea must continue to surge, so must our will continue resolute. Alone. Did you expect anything else from us? We did not suffer the interference of another. Ray's is contained, and we care not for his prison. Indeed, we admire his initiative. Perhaps if you had approached the correct one of us with your plea, it would have found favorable audience. But we stand in the sea, pleased with our domain. Leave us alone. We also instruct that you should not return to Abrodai. We have claimed that world, and a new blank of our being is beginning to manifest there. She is young yet, and as a precaution, she has been instilled with an intense and overpowering dislike of you. This is all we will say at this time. If you wish more, seek these waters in person and overcome the tests we have created. Only in this will you earn our respect.
I feel like even after everything you've told us over the last hour, that still went over my head.
I
So,
kind of agree.
do you remember when autonomy was interfering? It says autonomy was interfering with other shards.
I did notice that.
That happens early, right after the shattering. Autonomy is kind of meddling in other shards. As soon as Odium kills Ambition, which is the first Devotion and Dominion, the first two shards that Odium kills, Autonomy pulls back to Taldane and says, "No, no, we're not going to do anything, and nobody can go in and out of Taldane. It's its own thing." So when Taldane is being talked about, Chris is like, we used to be able to go back and forth, but now we can't." Do you remember saying that? Of a fact of which I'm all too aware, is what she says. She can't return to Taldane because autonomy has completely shut the planet off.
All right.
The third one is written by somebody I'm not going to tell you who. Friend, your letter is most intriguing, even revelatory. I would have thought before attaining your current station that a deity could not be surprised. Obviously, that is not true. I can be surprised. I can perhaps even be naive, I think. I am the least equipped of all to aid you in this endeavor. I am finding that the powers I hold are in such conflict with the most simple of actions can be difficult. I am also made uncertain by your subterfuge. Why have you not made yourself known to me before this? How is it that you can hide? How are you truly? Who are you truly? And how do you know so much about Adonalsium? If you would speak to me further, I request open honesty. Return to my lands, approach my servants, and I will see what I can do for your quest. So,
Who said that?
haha. So, there's no relationship here, is what I'm trying to say. This person is very surprised to be receiving a letter from Hoyd.
This person also doesn't kind of brush Hoyd off like the other entities, Shards and this dragon thing. So whoever this is at least listening or willing to listen.
But he's the least. This individual is the least of them, or at least self-proclaimed. Right.
Any questions?
Oh, my only question is a very overarching. All these are like very notable words. Like we have honor, cultivation, dominion. The other one that died with
Endowment,
an A.
ambition.
Yes, endowment, ambition. Like very prominent foundational words in general, as we know in the English language.
Right.
Is there like a greater theme to Adonalsium that's like the essences of humanity? I don't know, like not humanity. Do you see what I mean a little bit? Like, is there a theme to these words that's important, or is this just a cool naming system that Brandon Sanderson had for these shards?
I would say great question, and I have no idea. The
Okay.
shard is going to embody the title. Odium is going to... Odium has the
Embodiment.
shard hatred.
Yeah, like odious.
Right.
like,
Honor
dreaded. Yeah.
has the shard honor. You will be honorable to a fault. Cultivation says, I'm going to grow things, and that's what I do, you know.
Okay. Which planet was it? I can't believe it. Ambition on.
Ambition is on Threnodite, which we will be reading a short story of later.
Okay. Cool.
I told you
think
8
that's pretty
shards: devotion, dominion, odium, cultivation, honor, endowment, autonomy, and ambition. The fandom as a whole knows of 6 more. Nobody knows about 2, which is where my unity theory came in. Remember that?
Yes.
I have a running theory that unity is one of these shards, and not even Silverlight knows it exists.
Does that make
And
you
you,
like gold light? So you're beyond silver light. You
Uh,
know? Thank you. Sorry.
well, I feel like our eyes have been opened to the great scale of the Cosmere.
Uh, Only other question, Professor Trevor.
yes.
How was I supposed to figure this out on my own?
Great question. So that is, I don't know how I feel about that, but if you care that much about it, you're supposed to Google it.
Yeah.
And all of this information, it comes from live streams and Q&As. So he'll have a book signing, and you're allowed to ask him one question while he's signing your book, or you'll go to the convention, the Dragonsteel minicon. Which actually, fun fact, Dragonsteel, the name, was his first book. Dragonsteel, the name, is the book, the unpublished book of Hoyd's backstory. It is written. He's not proud of it yet, so he hasn't published it. But the bare bones, 1999 version of Dragonsteel does exist.
Is that the one that there's like one copy and it like existed in the library where he went to college or something like that?
Yes, that's also called Dragonsteel, but that's just his senior thesis. That's
Oh, okay,
that
okay.
that in no way is canon.
Okay. I think it's really frustrating that the one book that we hear of, and he's like, "Oh, like I don't think this book was very good. It didn't get released," and it's Hoyd's backstory.
Right.
Hoyd's backstory, like, okay,
I think I like this approach to creating a fantasy realm because it kind of makes a pick your difficulty level. You can, if you want to, just read Warbreaker and not go any further than that. You can read one, you can read Mistborn and not worry too much about it. Or if you want, you can read some more and you can try and connect the dots and you can try and dig a little deeper. Or if you don't have a life like all of us, you can spend your time watching YouTube videos and going to conventions and asking Brandon Sanderson himself, what does this mean? Like it's you can go as far down the rabbit hole as you want to, and if you don't want to, that's fine. You can enjoy a story for what it is. The fact that he's made the stories at least have enough legs to stand on their own, I think allows him to get away with this. And I think I like this. This is pretty cool.
And I mean, he's been on record multiple times that that's 100% intentional. That yes, there's ties between Warbreaker and Stormlight, but you can enjoy Warbreaker on its own. You can enjoy Stormlight on its own without having any knowledge of the other one, and it's still a completely fine standalone story.
I would like to
The
go back and change my rating of Brandon Sanderson's world building because, like, honestly, like this is remarkable, and I 100% agree with Elliot. This is super cool because You can enjoy the story of Mistborn. You can enjoy the story of the Stormlight Archive. I'm sure Elantris is great. Even just the stories of Ars Arcanum, right? And if you want to, you can figure out kind of how it all connects. Like you could read one of those, you could read all of them and just leave them as good stories of their own, or you can try and do whatever the heck we're doing, which I honestly don't know how to describe what we're doing right now. But it's pretty big. It's big. We're, you know, yeah.
I
There we
I
go.
gotta say, I'm only just now starting to appreciate the amount of effort this must take him. The amount of mental gymnastics that he has to be able to do in order to create a world like this that is consistent with itself, that is connected but also individual and unique. Like the amount of planning and thought and intentionality that has to go into that is incredible.
You remember at the end of or The Way of Kings when we learned about Ketics, right?
The
And I
poems.
thought that was, yes, the poems that are like palindromes. They're the exact same backwards as forwards. I thought that was super cool because I was like, wow, he put a lot of thought into not only thinking of a really difficult thing to write, something that when read backwards is the same as reading forwards, but something that's on theme. It wasn't just coming up with a Kedek, it was like very consistent with our storyline, like relevant, things like that. And I was like, that's impressive. That's not easy to do. And man, that was like baby's first intro to writing letters, like compared to like just the planning that you have to go like think through while writing all these different stories. Well, by the way, like very well developed individual stories, and connecting this like overarching story of, I'm just gonna say Hoyd's story
Right.
to kind of encompass it. So I'm very, very much impressed.
The thing that boggles my mind is the the year gaps between Elantris and now is crazy. And he had, a decent amount of this outlined out all the way back then. And he's writing Stormlight 5 this year. Like he had the at least the foundation of Stormlight 5 however long ago, and he has all of these clues in all of these books from however long ago, and he's deliberately put them in there. It's not like he gets an idea for a sequel and then writes the sequel. No, he already has the plan for the sequel when he's writing the first book, and he writes the first book with the concept of book 5 in mind. Like, that's just crazy to me.
And then on top of all that, in his head, he can write at such a pace that he can actually deliver it to us.
And at a quality. Like
right. Like no other author would even be able to dabble within the surface of this crazy world in their head. And Brandon can, spit out hundreds of thousands of words per year in the novels that he writes. Crazy.
he worked a graveyard shift at a hotel when he was in college, and he outlined pretty much this whole thing. He said he had 400,000 words of outline of the Cosmere before he started writing. 400, that's the Way of Kings. That's the final Way of Kings in outline form of the Cosmere.
Mind blowing.
Brandon Sanderson knows the last two shards, right? Sorry, that's kind of off topic, but I imagine he has that in his outline. But I'm wondering, like, was that back then? Has he been holding on to the secret for 25 plus years? Or,
Yes.
man,
That and a whole lot more secrets, it sounds like.
maybe one other secret, yeah.
Any closing thoughts on this very unique episode of Following Nodon?
Would you like to see the notes I took? This is correspondent to what my brain was thinking about as we went through various squiggly lines.
Fun fact, that's what a Lethe formal script looks like, because every letter is up. Every letter you can fold in half, whatever that's called.
Oh, yes.
Symmetrical.
Symmetrical.
So it just looks like a bunch of like radio waves is a Lethe formal script.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks for joining me, Paul and Eliot. We will be doing the first half of The Emperor's Soul next week, followed by the second half of the week after that. And I hope you enjoy this short deviation from Stormlight before we head back into Dawnshard in probably a month. Thanks for joining me.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna go think about my life. Good night.